not for sale. Okay, Jack McCormick has a lot of hats in this town, and the biggest part that she has played in this is with the National Post Office Collaborate. Here she is, Jacqueline McCormick.
It's always great to be around such a great, friendly crowd. We started here, the National Post Office Collaborate, but we've gone national, and we're the ones that are part of the lawsuit that are trying to get some legislation and some judicial rulings around public trust, Section 106 and NEPA in Stamford, Connecticut. And we're real involved in meeting with Tony and everything here. But what I want to share with you today is how our efforts here have had an impact nationally, because it's very true. Last week, I was honored to speak at the MAS Summit for Equity, Place, and Opportunity in New York. MAS is the organization that was behind saving Grand Central Station. This is the level that this has gotten to. And in my little 6-minute smart talk, by the way, I'll tell you about that later. But anyway, in my little 6-minute smart talk about this issue and trying to bring it to public awareness, I looked around the audience, and much to my surprise, out of the 1,000 people that were sitting there, over 90% were young urbanists between the ages of 20 and 40. And most of those were between 20 and 30. I have never felt so old in my life. But I must tell you how my talk began, and it got roaring laughs. It began as follows. Once upon a time, almost 3 years ago, the Postal Service decided to sell a historic post office in a little hamlet in California called Berkeley. Big mistake. The response that I got from that group, I had people coming up to me 2 days later. I became the post office lady. They were telling me about their little post office and how they had lost it. One woman has sent me pictures that just make you cry. This absolutely beautiful rotunda-shaped historic post office that has been torn down for a square box for Pioneer drive-through chicken wings. It's disgusting. But we are making a difference, and I want us to remember that no matter what happens here, we have made a difference in this United States, just like we did behind apartheid and gay rights, and we cannot give up. We cannot give up the momentum and the movement that we've started here to save our post office and our postal service. And I'm going to share with you right now an email I got 2 days ago from not Jordana, but from Jerry Bruno, who I met and happened to sit next to at the MAS Summit. Jerry was a senior, I think, at Columbia. Hi, Jacqueline. It was great meeting you at the MAS Summit. I learned so much from your presentation. You really captured my imagination about the post office and why it is so important to our American fabric. I'm the young African-American male that sat next to you. You gave me your personal email and cell. Mine is, again, thank you for a pointed and timely conversation. I hope our paths cross again. Yes, we hope our paths do cross again with those 900 young urbanists who understand what the significance of historic buildings and public space that's available to everyone is to our nation. Thanks so much for your support, and please don't give up.
Thank you. Are there any other people from City Council here who would like to speak now? Anybody from City Council? Okay. Is there anybody who would like to speak specifically on postal banking? Because I don't know how many of you know this, but they used to have banks right in the post offices. This stopped, I'm not sure what year. Anybody know what year that stopped? 66 or 67, it stopped. And how many people here know people who don't have a bank account? They can't even afford to have their bank account. They have to cash their checks at a check cashing place where they are charged usury fees in order to do that. We could reestablish postal banking. I believe that Elizabeth Warren is trying to spearhead that campaign in the Congress. What would the world be like if you could walk into your post office and cash a check and it wouldn't cost you a bunch of money? You know, so if you don't know much about that, try to find out. You can Google postal banking. You can probably find out on Elizabeth Warren's website exactly where that is. Dave? Dave Welsh has something to say about it.
My name is Dave. I'm a retired letter carrier with the post office. And I want to say something about postal banking. You know, the postal bank was established in the early years of the 1900s, and it got tremendous support from particularly the many immigrants that had come into the United States at that time. And they remembered back in their home countries there was a postal bank. Most places in the world had a bank in the post office. And they also remembered this was a time when banks were failing. And they would put their life savings in the bank, and then all of a sudden it would vanish. Well, you know, and so they had confidence in being able to put their banking, do their banking in the post office. Well, now today, there's 30,000 some post offices across the country. The infrastructure is already there. We don't have to build any buildings. Just use the 30,000 post offices that are already there. And this is also a time when people are very suspicious of the big banks. They ripped us off in the financial crisis of 2008, and with foreclosing, like Gigi was singing about earlier in her song, I ain't got a home in this world anymore, and seizing the homes of people and throwing them out on the street, which these banks did for their private profit. So that's another example of how we can stop the trend toward privatization and make more of a trend towards public buildings, public uses, so that everybody benefits. And I just wanted to say while I'm here, Measure R. Yes on Measure R. Because the zoning overlay, which was passed and is now part of the law in the city of Berkeley, it's not necessarily the law forever. But if you pass Measure R, then the zoning overlay, which will protect the public uses of this post office and the rest of the buildings in the civic center, will be protected much better. Thank you.